It's been a hard couple of months. Change is always hard. I know intellectually that it is the only constant in life, but that doesn't always make it easy to live through. I knew that going back to work in person was going to be an adjustment, but I don't think I fully understood how much of my waking life it was going to fill. Luckily, I am able to take advantage of Austin's public transit on the weeks that tornadoes at their dad's house. So while my commute is still nearly 2 hours a day, I'm only driving for about a half an hour of that, which means that I have about 45 minutes each way to work on a small handwork project. Not too long ago, at one of the few events that I was able to attend this spring, my friend Kat was elevated to Laurel. If you're the wrong kind of nerd to know what that means, it's when someone receives the highest recognition possible for research and creation in the SCA. I wasn't able to make a gift for her in time for the ceremony, but I wanted to commemorate the occasion with a cup cover inspired by her heraldry. I need supplies first. A 9-inch linen square, some embroidery floss. I like DMC cotton for cup covers because it can take a beating. Some beads, an embroidery hoop, and some notions like linen thread, needles, scissors, and beeswax, all of which fit nicely inside a handy-dandy pouch I've had for years. Before I do anything else, I'm going to hem the linen with a running stitch. I had someone ask me about thread recently, and I'm using Burnley & Trowbridge's 80/3 linen thread, which is what I usually hand sew with. The 80 in the number refers to the thread thickness, with a higher number being a finer thread, and the 3 indicates the number of plies or individual strands twisted together to make the thread. So 80/3 is a medium fine thread made of 3 plies. It doesn't matter to literally anyone but me, but I love mitering corners. I think they just look so snazzy. In order to do that, I fold the corner in to make a diagonal edge and then double fold each side of the hem, and if I've done it right, the 2 angles of the hem will meet in the corner with a nice diagonal line. It takes some practice to judge how much of the corner to fold in, but I think it's worth it. Kat's heraldry, very cleverly, has a few St. Catherine wheels on it, and I thought it would be a perfect motif to sit on top of a round cup opening. For smaller designs like this, I like to use my iPad as a light table. In order to do that without constantly moving the screen around through the cloth, I'll get everything set up how I want to trace it and touch input. The session is easily ended by triple-clicking the home button and entering my guided access passcode. If you're interested in knowing how to do that, I'll put a link in the description with instructions. I find the center of the fabric by folding the linen square into quarters and finger pressing that point before centering it on the hub of the wheel. To trace the design, I'm using a friction fine point marker, but I've also used archival micron pens if I need a more permanent line marking, or even white gel pens if I'm working on a dark fabric. Next, I will stretch the fabric for embroidery. This motif ended up being very close to too big for this hoop, and if I had a slightly bigger size, I would have used that instead. I honestly don't even really need the hoop since it's such a small motif and easy to keep tension, but better safe than sorry. Kat's heraldry has a blue background with white wheels, but since I'm embroidering on white linen and I don't really want to embroider the entire field in blue, I'm going to use a series of increasingly lighter threads to form a gradient from dark blue to white around the outside of the wheel. My go-to for nice sharp lines is stem stitch, which is a kind of back stitch where each stitch is taken on the same side of the guideline, resulting in a series of tightly packed diagonal lines that resemble a twisted cord sitting on the surface of the fabric. It's great for outlines and filling areas that need a very densely packed embroidery pattern. Thank you to all of my current and continuing Ko-fi members. Your support and the support of all of my croissants makes it easier to do what I do and provide quality content for everyone. Thank you all so much, and thank you for your patience with me. Stick around after this brief commercial break to see the finishing touches. Once all the embroidery is done, I can add beads at the corners. This adds weight to the cover, preventing it from being easily blown off of or bugs getting into the cup that it's meant to be covering. I'm going with a set of silver and blue lapis beads that match the heraldic colors and add just a bit of flash. To sew them on, I'll start with a doubled linen thread secured at the underside of the corner. Then I will string all 3 beads onto the needle and then back through the first and second beads, forming a loop through those beads that's held in place by the smallest bead on the end. Then I will take a stitch into the fabric and repeat the process so there is a total of 4 strings holding the beads on. The last little detail I like to add to my cup covers is a security loop. I'll loosen a short cord, maybe 3 inches or so, leaving a thread tail on each end. This lucet was a very sweet gift from one of my subscribers. Thank you so much. I love to use the tools that you so kindly share with me. Once that is finished, I can then fold one end over into a loop just big enough to slip over the beads. I'll secure it by dividing the strands of the thread tail in 2 and weaving each of them into the length of the cord. Then I can use the other thread tail to sew the whole thing to the underside of one of the corners. The cord can be wrapped around the stem of a goblet or the handle of a mug and looped over the beads at the same corner. And voila, we have a finished cup cover.